He is an assistant professor at Central University, Koraput. Uh, Today, he will be delivering his lecture on media stereotypes. Now, media stereotypes is a very interesting subject. As such, stereotypes is a very interesting subject. It's about typecasting. It's about uh, in a way, it's about it has its positive connotations, like it's a shortcut to meaning. Stereotype can be a shortcut to meaning, but at the same time, stereotype can be stereotyping a person or a group can be very limiting to that particular group or to that particular person. uh, we have media being charged of stereotyping others, particularly women. So, Dr. Gupta will talk extensively about the different types of stereotypes that media create in the society and how they can be harmful. And it's over to you, Dr. Gupta. You can start your delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Divedi, for this opportunity. And I thank OSOU for this wonderful initiative. And I welcome all my dear students. So I'll try to deliver my lecture in a mixed language of Oriya and English. And if required, I can use Hindi also. So basically, I have been assigned the third and the fourth unit of the media sociology. In this, I was going through the syllabus. Syllabus re tinta unit achi block 3 re media portrayal of women, issues of empowerment, Gandhian perspective, recent media campaigns, literacy, health, nutrition, cleanliness, pure water and power. তো এই ତିନି ପ୍ରକାରର sub topics ଅଛି ଏଇ block 3 ରେ. So all these three are basically very dispersed. So ମୁଁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିବି ଏଇ ତିନିଟା ଟପିକ କୁ ଗୋଟେ ସୂତ୍ରରେ କେମିତି ଆମେ ବାନ୍ଧି ପାରିବୁ. I'll try to do that. First of all, let me just start by uh, saying what I understand by media sociology. Already ବୋଧହୁଏ ସେଇଟା ତା ଉପରେ ବିସ୍ତାରିତ ଆଲୋଚନା ହେଇସାରିଛି. ତଥାପି ଟାଲକଟ୍ ପାର୍ସନ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ସେମାଇନାଲ ଆର୍ଟିକଲ ଡିସ୍କଭରି ଅଫ ମିଡିଆ, ସେ ଡିସ୍କଭରି ଅଫ ମିଡିଆରେ ପାର୍ସନ କହିଥିଲେ ଯେ ବେସିକାଲି it is a symbolical generalization. ମାନେ in media we are searching basically for some symbols. ସେଇ ସବୁ ସିମ୍ବଲ କୁ ଆମେ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜ କରୁଛେ society, how those symbols are perceived in the society. So basically media sociology ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ process ଯୋଉଠି କି ଏଇ ସବୁ ସିମ୍ବଲ କୁ ଜେନେରାଲାଇଜ କରାଯାଉଛି. ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ କାଳେ ନିକୋଲାସ ଲୁମେନ, ଫ୍ରିଟ୍ସ ହେଇଡର ଏମାନେ ସମସ୍ତ ପାର୍ସନର ଗବେଷଣାକୁ ଆଗକୁ ନେଇଗଲେ. So basically we will search for some symbols when we study media sociology. Stereotyping ଯେମିତି ସାର୍ କହିଲେ starting ରେ, stereotyping is basically a process of generalizing. We are assigning some particular meaning and perception and we are generalizing it. ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଆମର ବଲିଉଡରେ ଯୋଉ ଫିଲ୍ମସ ହଉଛି, ସେ ଫିଲ୍ମରେ କିଛି କିଛି ଫିଲ୍ମରେ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ପଞ୍ଜାବୀ କ୍ୟାରେକ୍ଟର ଗୋଟେ ରହିବ, ଯେ ବଙ୍ଗାଳୀ କ୍ୟାରେକ୍ଟର ଗୋଟେ ରହିବ, ଟିପିକାଲ କ୍ୟାରେକ୍ଟର. ସେ ଯୋଉ ବଙ୍ଗାଳୀ କ୍ୟାରେକ୍ଟରଟା ସେ ଇଂଲିଶ କହିବ ଗୋଟେ ବଙ୍ଗାଳୀ ଆକ୍ସେଣ୍ଟରେ, আর ସେ ହି ଇଜ ଅଲୱେଜ ଆଫ୍ରେଡ. ସେ ବଙ୍ଗାଳୀ ଲୋକଟା ସଦାବେଳେ ସେ ଭୟଭୀତ ହେଇକି ଅଛି, ପୁରେ ବାବା ଏମିତି ସବୁ କଥା ସେ କହିବ. This is a stereotyping. This is stereotyping. Whenever there is a requirement of a foolish character in a film, ଜଣେ ବୋକା ଲୋକ, ତାର ମଗଜରେ କିଛି ନାହିଁ, ବ୍ରେନଲେସ୍ ଲୋକ, that will be given to a Punjabi. So basically these are there are different types of stereotyping. There are racial stereotyping, ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି, gender stereotyping ଅଛି, regional stereotyping ଅଛି, religious stereotyping भी ଅଛି। ମୁଁ जो example ଟା ଦେଲି ସେଟା ହଉଛି regional stereotyping, and we are acquainted to perceive people coming from different regions in a particular light. Even ଗୋଟେ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ଭିତରେ ବି ଏଇ ଜିନିଷଟା ଅଛି। ଆମ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ବି ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ମାନେ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଓଡ଼ିଶା ଲୋକ ତା ବିଷୟରେ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ଅନ୍ୟ ପ୍ରାନ୍ତର ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ଧାରଣା ହେଇକି ଅଛି ଅଲରେଡି। ଗଞ୍ଜାମ ଲୋକ ଏମିତି ହବ, କଟକିଆ ଲୋକ ଏମିତି ହବ, ଏଇ ଯେ ଜିନିଷଟା ରିଜିଓନାଲ stereotyping. এই stereotyping ର ଉଦ୍ଦେଶ୍ୟ କ'ଣ? Why this phenomena is present? Basically, this is a matter which is linked to representation. Representation means how the media represents or how the society constructs the meaning of a certain phenomena. ସମସ୍ତେ ମିନିଂ ତৈয়াରୀ କରୁଛି। ଏଇ ଜିନିଷଟାର ମିନିଂ କ'ଣ? ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ପର୍ସନାଲ ପରସେପସନ ରେ ଅଛି ମୋର, ମିଡିଆ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରୋସେସରେ ତାର ମିନିଂ କନଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଟ କରୁଛି। ତ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ କନଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ସନ ଅଫ ମିନିଂ, ମିଡିଆର ଇଚ୍ଛାଟା ହଉଛି ଯେ ମୁଁ ଯୋଉ ମିନିଂଟା କନଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଟ କରୁଛି ସଂଖ୍ୟାଗରିଷ୍ଠ ଲୋକ ସେଇ ମିନିଂଟାକୁ ଫଲୋ କରିବେ, ତାହେଲେ ମୋର ଟିଆରପି ବଢିବ। Similarly, the film industry, the filmmakers are also, they are searching for certain formulas. See, ଆଜି ଯାଇ ଏମିତି କିଛି ଫର୍ମୁଲା ବାହାରିନି ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ଫିଲ୍ମ କେମିତି ହିଟ୍ ହବ, but our filmmakers are continuously trying to make a formula. ଫିଲ୍ମ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡାଏ ଏମିତି ଫର୍ମୁଲା ଅଛି। ଗୋଟେ ସମୟ ଥିଲା ଡେଭିଡ ଧୱନ ଆଉ ଗୋବିନ୍ଦା ଏଇ ଦୁଇ ଜଣଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ପାର୍ଟନରସିପ ଥିଲା, ଗୋଟେ ଫର୍ମୁଲାରେ ଫିଲ୍ମ ହଉଥିଲା, 7-8ଟା ଫିଲ୍ମ ହିଟ୍ ହେଇଗଲା, ତାପରେ then started the downfall. So there is no such formula, but the media is always trying to set a formula. এইটা କଲେ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଭଲ ଲାଗିବ, ଆମେ ଏଇ ପ୍ରକାରର ଜିନିଷଟା ଦେଖେଇବା। So you see the item numbers, the vamps in the Hindi films, these are all creation of meanings. Representation theory is dependent on the commercial aspect. এই ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ପଛରେ ଗୋଟେ commercial କାରଣ ଅଛି। Why do we construct meanings? Because if we can construct meanings, if we can convince the society to accept that construction of meaning, it will be beneficial for the media industry. So that is why whenever there was a time in the 70s, whenever we needed an action hero, we needed Amitabh Bachchan, we needed Vinod Khanna. When we need a romantic hero, we go for Rajesh Khanna, Shashi Kapoor, Rishi Kapoor. These are all stereotypes. These are all stereotypes. Much later in his career, Amitabh Bachchan tried to break the stereotype. And now he is doing different kind of roles. ଗୋଟେ ସମୟ ଥିଲା 70s, 80s, 90s, early 90s ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ he was basically doing stereotype roles. Women have also been stereotyped. ମହିଳା ମାନଙ୍କୁ ସବୁଠୁ ବେଶୀ stereotype କରାଯାଇଛି ମିଡିଆରେ, because in our society there has always been an attempt to portray women as a commodity. Right from the inception of civilization, there has always been, we have seen that in our ancient mythological literature also, the women have been subjected to various kinds of extortions, and they have been their characters have been maligned. If Ramayana Mahabharata रे आपण देखिबे सीता द्रौपदी भली चरित्र को ତାଙ୍କର character को malign करा ହେଇଛି. Sita had to go underground ultimately to prove her virginity and to prove her sanctity. And Draupadi had to accept 5 husbands, and still, even after all these things, she had to hear the title of Veshya from Karna when the Doot Krida was going on. So, Indian mythological literature, they have ample evidences of how we have treated our women in our country, especially. So there is a typical way, if you see the Indian films, especially mainstream Hindi films, which is the most popular. So I'll give example of the mainstream Hindi films only. See, there are very few films where the woman basically has a substantive character to play. They are basically added as a decoration, eye candy. देखले भल लागिबो. Plot is going on. The plot of the film is going on. The heroine has no role to play except to come and dance. Se asibo tige romantic scenes सब करिवो तापर से पळाइबो. मूल काहिनी रे तार किछु भूमिका नाही. 90% of the films are like this movie. Apart from the films, if we see the other kinds of media, probably advertising is the next media which touches our everyday life. See, advertising रे भी आपण देखिबे गोटे बीड़ेर विज्ञापन सेथिरे भी जणे महिला को रखा हैछि. कोन पई? There is no logic. Here also the objectification, commoditification, and women have been portrayed as basically as a sexual element. At this point of time, एबे गोटे समय हेछि गोटे विज्ञापन देखाइबा पई चेष्टा करिवि to establish what is going on in our media scape today. I would like to show you one advertisement. You may not get the sound of the advertisement, but please see this. By seeing this advertisement, we can well understand that what is the stereotyping with regards to women in our media. So, see, if you see this advertisement, it seems that women are the only human beings who are starved for sexual desires, and men have no sexual desire at all. This is what this advertisement establishes. So these are, I would say, this is a very good example of stereotyping. There was a time when women were basically kept in a corner of our houses. The advertisement which you saw just now, it is not very old. It's 7 to 8 years back. this advertisement was made. But there was a time in our society when the women were not allowed to go step out of their home. They did not have the voting rights also. And exactly from this phase, the feminist movement started. I'll just very briefly, I'll give a historical account of the feminist movement. There are three phases basically in the feminist movement. There for the civil rights movement for voting power, which is known as the suffrage era of feminism. There is a very good book called The Ideas of the Woman Suffrage Movement, 1890 to 1920, written by Aileen Creditors. Then, after getting the voting rights, in the Victorian era, there was a distinct phase that the society will be ruled by the male and the woman would actually be confined to household activities. So there, the authors, the literateurs, they took an active role. Literature was the first medium, mass medium, which basically spoke out for the woman. I remember Shakespeare, I think many of you have read The Merchant of Venice. So Merchant of Venice was a বিখ্যাত নাটক উইলিয়াম শেক্সপিয়ার করেন তার লাস্ট যে সিনটা which is very popularly known as the trial scene. So Merchant of Venice রে जो main lady character protagonist Portia, she came out of the palace, dressed herself up as a lawyer. से लॉयर भली ड्रेस मेकअप सब करिकी पुरुष हेकी से कोर्ट को गले आ से शाइलॉक विरुद्ध रे से केस टाकू डिफेंड कले. There was a case which was going on between Shylock, the villain of that play, and Antonio. And Portia, dressed up as a male lawyer, she fought the case and won it for Antonio. So, this was a major breakthrough, I would say, in the feministic movement in literature, because Shakespeare महिला कैरेक्टर को घर बाहर को आनी देले, and she rescued a male person, and she rescued the male person. It was a female who was rescuing the male as a lawyer. So basically Shakespeare established that the ladies are in no way inferior to the gentlemen. Another play, I remember much ado about it. Here the Shakespeare is writing a dialogue. Again a lady character, her father wants to get her married to somebody of his choice. And the lady character says, mark the dialogue, what she says, to choose love from someone else's eyes. And should I choose my husband? Should somebody else choose my husband? So that dialogue was to choose love from someone else's eyes. So we can see that the literateurs, they were basically very concerned. In the next phase, we get another play like The Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, Norwegian playwright. The Doll's House, which is considered to be a very important feminist play. In India also, we have, as I already said, in our mythological literature, there has been occasions where characters like Sita and Draupadi, has been sparingly, the mythology has concerned they expressed their concern about Sita and Draupadi, but we cannot say that it is a feminist literature. We have got characters like Ahalya also. So women have always been subjected to extortion and injustice in our mythology. But at the same time, parallelly, we see very strong characters also in Indian mythology. I would like to mention here about Aristophanes, a Greek playwright who had written the play Lysistrata. In Lysistrata, people are the men, they want to fight all the time. War is going on everywhere. The kings, they want more and more empire. They want their empires to expand. The women are fed up of war. They want peace. So all the women, they get together and they say to the men that if you don't stop war, if you don't stop fighting, we won't allow you in our beds. This is the story of Lysistrata by Aristophanes. And this is how the war is put to an end. This particular play was written long back when just the Greek and Roman theater is starting. And there are other authors also, Jane Austen, Thomas Hardy. In the social sector also, with the emergence of very strong lady characters who contributed, the movement of feminism got strengthened. Like, say, somebody like Florence Nightingale. Frances Cobb, who contributed greatly to the education scenario. So these are the characters, the heroes, ladies as heroes, which tempted the authors to write. But the fact is that due to commercial interests, today our media is deeply sexist. ଏବେ କିଛି ଦିନ ତଳେ ୟୁନେସ୍କୋ ତରଫରୁ ଗୋଟେ ସେମିନାର ହେଇଥିଲା ୟୁନେସ୍କୋର ଗୋଟେ ଜେଣ୍ଡର ଇକ୍ୱାଲିଟି ଡିଭିଜନ ଅଛି ତାଙ୍କର ଡିରେକ୍ଟର ସେ କହିଲେ ଯେ we all know how damaging sexist media images can be and the suffering that it can inflict on women in particular. So this phenomena is going on. Already I have said that it is very difficult to stop this phenomena, this gender stereotyping, the portrayal of women in a negative light, because the media feels that majority of the people actually they want to see these kind of things, and if we show it, that will serve our commercial purpose. Again, that it is a matter of representation, as I was saying, construction of meaning. But there have been exceptions also, and there have been exceptions in India only. When we say feminist media, basically we are trying to say that to see things from the perspective of a woman. जड़े महिला तार देखिवार तार आखिरु आपण देखिबे तार दृष्टि तार शूरे निज गोड़ रखिकी आपण को भाबिबार अछि. All great playwrights whom I mentioned just now, Shakespeare, Tagore, all of them, They have written wonderful feminist literature because they could think from a woman's perspective. So feminist media portrayal is basically not, it is not a sympathy which we show to the woman, but it is how we show from the woman's perspective. To establish, ମୁଁ ଯୋଉଟା କହିଲି ସେଟା ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ ମୁଁ କରିବି। ଆପଣ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟିଆ କ୍ଲିପଟା ମୁଁ ଦେଖଉଛି। ରବୀନ୍ଦ୍ରନାଥ ଟେଗୋର ଗୋଟେ ନଭେଲ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ ନଷ୍ଟ ନୀଡ଼। It is regarded as one of the finest feminist literature. That Nashto Need was filmed by Satyajit Ray. And the name of the film was given Charulata because the lady protagonist, her name was also Charulata. So the name of the film was also Charulata. And in Charulata, Satyajit Ray showed how a filmmaker, how a media content creator should see from a woman's perspective. I will show you a very small clipping. The starting scene of Charulata. There are no dialogues in this clipping. Let us see it first and then we will continue the discussion.
କାହାର ଅନ୍ ହବ?
Okay, so I think all of you have seen minutely, and everybody has understood also many things. I'd just like to point out 2 to 3 points here. What is noticeable in this clip was that the camera was basically following the character. In many scenes, you'll see that the camera has been positioned at the behind the character, and basically the camera has been following the lady. What is she doing, and what are the activities from behind her? The implication of this camera positioning is basically the philosophy that the director is trying not to see through his camera or through his eyes, but he wants to set in his eyes into the eyes of that lady. So, this is a story of a very middle class Indian family where basically the ladies are have nothing to do except the household work, and sometimes they are neglected by their husbands also. And we can see that the husband, who is so much engrossed in his own work, that he takes a book, he keeps on reading it. He stands at the very position where his wife is standing, but yet he cannot see his wife. The isolation or the distancing between the husband and wife has so beautifully been depicted by the director. The husband wife ଗୋଟେ same building ରେ ସେମାନେ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି କିନ୍ତୁ ତାଙ୍କର psychological distancing ହେଇକି ଅଛି. ନହେଲେ ଜଣେ wife magnifying glass କାଇଁ ବ୍ୟବହାର କରିବେ ନିଜ husband କୁ ଦେଖିବା ପାଇଁ. So these are beautiful uses of semiotics, symbols. So these are, you can say that this is basically a feminist representation in the media, and our cinema has been extremely bold in many cases to address these issues. Another example which comes to my mind is Aparna Sen's Paroma, where Paroma is also a housewife, much like Charulata, and whose husband is a very big corporate boss and doesn't have time for his wife. And his wife gets into a relationship with one of his college mates, whom she meets after many years. And they get involved in a physical relationship also. In that film, after these things are revealed, Poroma is socially isolated by her family as well as by the society at large. Because a woman is not supposed to cross certain limits in our society. The husband is allowed to neglect her, but still the wife is not allowed to satisfy her sexual desires beyond certain limits in our society. And exactly this is where Aparna Sen is challenging the social norms. Aparna Sen, through her film Poroma, she is trying to say that when a male person has so many relationships outside home, which we never come to know about, maybe with his office colleague, maybe with some ex-girlfriend, maybe with some ex-batchmate, which we never come to know about. He is entitled to all this freedom. Why not a woman? Why not a housewife? If the husband neglects the sexual desires of his wife, why the wife is not entitled to find her desire, to satisfy her desire from some other avenue? Why will she not have the freedom? This is the question which Aparna Sen is raising in her film Poroma. So now how the media is being used, that is the interesting part. I have told you the subject matter, but you know, when the media has its own language, the language of cinema, the language of camera, how do we use it to show women? I have already shown all of you that how stereotyping takes place, how we show women in our advertisements as sex objects. But is there any other way also to show how the women are basically cornered in our society? So I would here again like to show you a very small clipping from the film Poroma. Okay, so basically in this clipping, what I was trying to show is, did you notice the way, the position of Rakhi Gulzar in the scene? She was made to stand in a corner of the screen. She was standing in the right hand corner. Throughout this scene, she was standing in the corner. What I am trying to say is the director has beautifully used the camera to show how the lady character, actually this is a scene when her husband has come to know about the relationship she has had with her ex-boyfriend. So after this, the social boycotting and social isolation, and her husband is not prepared to talk to her anymore. He is not sharing his bed with her, and there Rakhi stands at one corner of the room. So this is the language of the cinema. At the end of this clipping, when her husband leaves, he tells her that please don't come near my children. I don't want my children to be taught by a whore. This is what her husband tells her. And then there is a sound of siren. So there has been attempts in India itself to highlight the cause of the woman. And from this is where I will go to the next topic of our discussion, which is empowerment. Basically, the making of these kind of films, they have empowered women in a sense. Empowerment here refers to a system, a support system where the woman can be, where the woman gets an environment where she can exercise her freedom. ଜଣଙ୍କର ଗୋଡ଼ ଭାଙ୍ଗିଗଲା, ସେ ଚାଲି ପାରୁନି. How will you help her, him or her? Will you give him a crutch? Or will you give him education or employment? So there is a difference between these two approaches. Empowerment, the approach of empowerment is that we don't show sympathy. We don't need any sympathy. But we will provide people with an atmosphere, with provisions where they can build their characters, where they can acquire some capabilities, and where they can stand on their own feet. After the independence, ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ସମୟରେ ଆମ ଦେଶରେ ମହିଳାମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କିଛି ଭଲ ଭଲ କିଛି schemes, projects, these were taken. And basically in 1948, after the Second World War, when the United Nations was formed and people were worried about something known as human rights, Manavadhikar. So human rights, you know, in 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was prepared. Because in the 1945 Second World War, there was gross violation of human rights. Women were extorted, they were raped, the prisoners of war, the areas which were taken over in war, in those areas, women were raped mercilessly. Literature. So then the concept of human rights came. And the concept of woman's right came as a corollary to human rights. And in all the decolonized nations, the third world countries, the democratic countries which got independence from the colonial rule, there was a conscious effort to design projects and schemes which will benefit the woman. Do you remember the advertisement of Havells Company? The mother and the son. The mother is basically trying to make a roti and she is burning her hands in the fire. So the son goes and he brings a tongue to help her mother to prevent the burning of the hand. I would say that this advertisement, the philosophy behind this advertisement is somewhere related to the philosophy of the Ujjwala scheme, which the government launched, especially for the women, to avoid the fire accidents, to provide the woman with gas and cylinders, which is considered to be a safer option. So I would say that the Ujjwala scheme, the philosophy behind the Ujjwala scheme is basically a feminist approach. And if you see the advertisements or the publicity designs, the IEC materials which have been used in the Ujjwala scheme, I can say the same thing for Mission Shakti also by Government of Odisha. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. The Kanyashri by the Government of West Bengal. These are all classic examples of women empowerment schemes. Janani Suraksha Yojana. I have the advertisement, the audio-visual IEC materials of all these projects. I would not like to waste time by showing them, but I would request all of you to kindly see them. They are easily available on the web. So this is the gradual journey of feminism from the Europe to America to the world literature, to Indian literature, to Indian media, and it has a direct influence on the administration of our country and the policymakers. And now, in the last part of my lecture, I would like to tell you about another person who has had a lot of influence in Indian policy making. Yes, I am talking about Mahatma Gandhi. I said in the beginning that the syllabus of Block 3 of Media Sociology of your university has very dispersed elements, and I am basically trying to put them together in a common thread. So that brings me to Gandhiji. As you know that Gandhiji was never attached to any political party, neither he was a part of any government. But still, his ideals have exerted the maximum influence on Indian policy making, especially after the independence. All of you know that Gandhiji believed in the theory of Sarvodaya. And Sarvodaya is basically the backbone of Indian economic planning. When 5-year plans started after independence, you will see that the planning commission itself was, it comprised of people who were ardent Gandhi followers. Nehru himself, the chairman of the planning commission, he believed in socialism and he was a staunch follower of Gandhiji's ideals. So, Sarvodaya, the economic value, the economic policy of Gandhiji was not alienated from the cultural and spiritual ideology of India. Gandhiji always believed that we cannot copy from Western economic policies or Western economic approaches and just juxtapose it on India. Because every country has its own cultural background, it has its own value system. Therefore, the economic policy has to be integrated with the value system. One very important word has come in news in the last 72 hours. Everybody is discussing that word, which is Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is one term which has been used by our Prime Minister. The origin of this term, Atmanirbhar, if we trace the origin of this term, it was first pronounced by none other than Mahatma Gandhi when he speaks about self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency. Atmanirbharata was propagated by Mahatma Gandhi himself. Khadi, Swadeshi, the rural model of economics, the sanctity of labor, trusteeship, land reforms, removal of untouchability, socialistic pattern of society, economic equality for all, and the two pillars of Satyagraha and Ahimsa guiding all these elements. This is nothing but Atmanirbharata. The decentralization was brought about by the three-tier panchayat system in our country. The small and cottage industry, the support to agriculture, local agencies. Swaraj was another term which was prolifically used by Mahatma Gandhi. The use of local agencies through the panchayat. Industrialization in the local levels, small industries. These are all, if you see the first 3 to 4, 5-year plans, these are basically the focus. So this is basically the transformation of the Gandhian model of economics into Indian economy. If I say labor policy, Gandhiji had outlined very clear labor policy. The Minimum Wages Act, which was passed in 1948 and which was mentioned in the Constitution itself. The right to strike, industrial relations, Samodhan, everything belongs to the Gandhian model. Gandhiji had a very clear-cut notion of education. He had stressed on teaching through work. This is something which was practiced in Shantiniketan also by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. There is a story that once Gandhiji visited Shantiniketan and he saw that some people have been deputed in Vishwabharati to do all the cleaning jobs. Gandhiji told Tagore, Gurudev, why do you keep these people for cleaning? Let the students do, let the teachers do. Let every ashramik in Shantiniketan, they should do it themselves. And Tagore obliged. So that is what he was calling teaching through work. And based on that philosophy only, Sri Niketan was also developed. The rural economic hub. Gandhiji also had a very good outline of how to keep yourselves healthy. He stressed on exercise, physical work. He said that don't be greedy for food. Don't steal. Don't amass wealth. Be fearless. He was instrumental in removing all caste barriers. He advocated a classless and casteless society, equality in religion, and self-reliance. A lot of dialogue is going on nowadays regarding self-reliance. Even later on, if we see the preamble of the World Health Organization, they say that to stay fit is not that you don't have any infirmity. It is the mental and social well-being which is an indicator of staying fit. This statement by WHO is in conformity with Gandhiji's notion of health. He always advocated breathing exercises, hydrotherapy, sun bath, mud poultices. Later on in independent India, we have had many projects which have basically provided loan to people so that they can start their own business. The Startup India, also several other projects also. The right to pure water, drinking water, has been recognized by the United Nations itself. The Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Vaidyutikaran Yojana is a step to enhance rural electrification. The place where I stay, Koraput, the KBK region of Odisha, the power supply is done by the Indravati project and the Upper Kolab Dam project. These are rural electrification schemes. In 2011, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, they have recognized the common people's right to water and sanitization. And based on that philosophy, the Swachh Bharat mission has been launched. So, at the end of all these things, I would come down to what I started with, the representation. Sergei Moscovici, he says that representation has been, the theory of media representation has been derived from the Emily Durkheim's social representation. So everything comes down to how we perceive the society to be, how we perceive what is good and what is bad, how we construct and deconstruct the meaning of the society, how we construct and deconstruct the meaning of the symbols. And in today's time, when we are facing this uphill challenge of COVID-19, the threat of coronavirus, I think it is extremely important that we get rid of all the dominant negative constructions in our society and implement a positive construction of meaning. So this is where I'll end my lecture today, and I'll encourage all of you to discuss, and I would welcome your comments on what I said today.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. And it was indeed a Herculean effort on the part of our resource person to try and bring the so-called dispersed elements of our syllabus.
Hello.
Into one common platform. I admit that there are, but Dr. Gupta has done a wonderful job. Questions I think are not many, except for one question which says where the learner wants to know as to what are the different types of stereotypes. So, Dr. Gupta,
Oh, I think, yeah. I had already, actually, in the starting, I had told. Anyway, I'll repeat it once again. Actually, basically, there are racial stereotyping where we discriminate on the basis of the color of the skin. There have been several instances where dark-skinned athletes like Serena Williams, they have been portrayed in a particular way in media. There are gender stereotypings, which I have discussed today in my presentation. There are regional stereotyping, regional and sub-regional. We have a particular perception about people of different regions. Whenever we need a comedian, a cheap comedy in Hindi film, we always bring in a Punjabi person. Whenever we have to show a foolish person, we show a Punjabi. So these are regional and sub-regional stereotyping, and also religious stereotyping, which I would not like to discuss too much because it gets sensitive. But we have the media, knowingly or unknowingly, sometimes they try to construct or assign meanings to a particular religion, to people of particular religion, to certain habits of particular religions. There are different approaches to stereotyping also. social stereotyping, media stereotyping, economic stereotyping. So these are basically the important kinds of stereotyping.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. And it is also important to note that stereotyping of women is, or gender stereotyping in media, is one of the most prominent and much discussed topics. In fact, my own thesis was on gender stereotyping or role portrayals of men and women in Indian advertisements. So
Okay,
some very interesting results came out, and it was highly evident that women are mostly portrayed as housewives. Women are mostly portrayed as sex objects. Women are mostly
right,
portrayed as inferior to men or dependent upon men. And on the other
right.
hand, men are portrayed as career oriented. Men are portrayed as outdoor, adventurous. Uh,
Right,
so this is stereotyping done in Indian advertisements. So,
right.
women advertisement is a widely explored area in media studies. Similarly, sir has
Hmm.
also pointed out that racial discrimination exists, and even in some other courses also we talk of biases. There exist biases in language as well. We talk
Hmm.
of biases on the basis of religion. We talk of biases on the basis of race.
Hmm.
Use of words like uh, chinky, for instance,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
to refer to people from the northeast is an example of is a very important example of bias on the basis
Hmm.
of race. Similarly, ageism, age bias.
Hmm.
And Dr. Gupta, what do you have to say about films like Buddha Hoga Tera Baap? Does it counter ageism? Is it an answer to ageism?
Well, I would definitely say that it is an attempt, if not an answer, but actually we need strong filmmakers to address these issues. Basically, so somebody like, say, somebody like Sham Benegal or somebody like Vishal Bharadwaj. I won't say that Buddha Ka Tera Baap is not a good film, but I think there is a little bit of shallowness in their approach. And so the bottom line doesn't get established. It gets lost in many other things. But however, I would welcome this approach. At least they have addressed the issues. But we need strong filmmakers to come up and make a strong statement against it. Something I'm speaking of the level of Poroma and all those things.
And what about your take on the new breed of actresses which are coming to Bollywood, like Tapasi Pannu? You have people like Deepika Padukone. You have some of the new breed of you Radhika Apte. Are they in a way are they the new empowered women? Do they symbolize the new empowered women, or are they our do they represent the future of gender balance in our society, the future of our society, which will ultimately be about gender balance?
See, basically, I have no expectations from Bollywood because Bollywood is basically a very crass commercial industry and they do not venture beyond formulas. However, with the upcoming OTT platforms, I think there will be a little bit more of experimentation. The names which you are saying, they are basically all educated women and they are self-reliant women. So the middle class and the higher middle, upper middle class, the situation of women are quite balanced right now in India also, especially in the urban centers. But what about the women who are in the lower strata of the society, who have no income of their own, who are not allowed to participate in the mainstream education process? So I'm worried about them. But yes, definitely, I think with the upcoming OTT platforms, and yesterday I came to know that one of Amitabh Bachchan's films is going to release on OTT. So OTT seems to be the new, the future of Indian cinema. So I think there will be more experiments, and definitely we'll have some more positive films. But in spite of these names which you said, the situation at the grassroots, they refuse to change. Say, for example, in Koraput, in a place where I stay, here, I run a very small theater group of my own. I had encouraged a girl from Simligura College, she is pursuing her degree, to act in one of my plays. She acted. She's a brilliant actress, very talented. Her photo appeared in a newspaper. And then what happened? She was barred from acting, from participating in theater by her family members. And her grandfather and uncle said that if you do this, it will be difficult to get you married. So the girl was prevented from doing. So this is the ground reality where we are living in actually.
Dr. Gupta, there have been a few studies which or that have been conducted in Indian societies, in Indian tribal communities, especially, which suggest that there is more gender equality in tribal communities
Yes.
than in the mainstream communities, so to say, than in the so-called mainstream communities. Do you agree? Since you come from Koraput, what has been your experience with the tribals mainly?
Yes, actually, I did my just you were mentioning about your research. I also did my PhD on the theater of KBK. So I visited all the 8 districts in KBK, and I had to go to interior places and to record the performances of tribal theaters like Desia Nato. So I completely agree with this plan. And later on, when I read a book by one of the IAS officers of Odisha, I'm forgetting his name now. He was a KBK administrator at one point of time. Don't remember his name. A very good writer. He has pointed out rightly, and I agree with him 100%, that the tribal subplan, which has been the backbone of our tribal development policy in India, that does not work even after 50 years of independence. That is the main reason why, because the policies of tribal development were made in Delhi and in Bhubaneswar, and they never knew that there is no problem in balance of man woman equation in the tribal society, and they thought it was just like the non tribal societies, and they churned out one scheme after another for women empowerment, whereas there was no need for such schemes in the tribal society. What I am trying to say is that our understanding of the tribal problems is extremely urban, and it is extremely alienated from the reality. The tribal society is a just and equitable society, and they put us to shame.
Any more questions, please, learners? We give you some time to type your questions. Do you have any questions? You can type them in a very short. If writing is a problem, I know writing is a problem in this platform.
Yeah, let them ask if they can unmute themselves and.
Yes, anybody who would like to ask a question, we give you scope to present yourself. No, I think not much is coming up, and since our learners seem to be having no serious questions, I assume that the lecture has been, or the resource person has been successful in conveying his ideas. So I'll call it time. So
My
it's time.
my intention was basically, frankly speaking, Dr. Divedi, my intention was not to teach or preach anything. I only want to, just make the listeners curious. If after listening to me, if they go and explore and search, then I'll consider myself good actually, that my purpose has been served. I want only to ignite a little bit of curiosity among them. These are subjects which cannot be taught in one lecture only. Uh, I
Agreed.
request all the students to kindly engage in self study, self exploration also. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So thank you all. It's time we assume this lecture to be over, and Dr. Gupta
I
will
think
have
there
his
is a question, sir, in the chat box. Just now, somebody has written a
Yes,
question.
yes, yes, yes. Aishwarya Rai has a question. Do mass-mediated stereotypes harm members of negatively stereotyped groups? I think this is a very sensitive question.
Yes,
Do mass?
yes, definitely, definitely, and that is why we are discussing all these things. See, I can remember one incident in Raigada district of Odisha, 4 to 5 years ago. There, a lady was burned alive because the local people, they thought that she was basically a witch, and due to her presence in the village, the children, they were becoming ill, and some of them were seriously ill. It's just that there was a viral fever outbreak of a viral fever in Raigada, and that poor lady, she was attributed for that. And so this kind of witch hunting is going on. So I mean, from where does these perceptions come? Is it not those serials in televisions which are those serials about ghosts and witches? Don't they instill a construction of feminine image as witches in the psyche of the audience? I would hold the media stereotyping solely responsible for it. And here also I would like to mention one another thing, that is the media literacy. The lack of media literacy is basically preventing us from deconstructing these negative images. If we would have been literate in terms of media, this would not have happened. And as I said in the beginning, these are all commercially purported and motivated media. So these things are happening. I gave an example of rural. There are plenty of such, I mean, domestic violences, the incidents of domestic violences. Somebody is beaten up, I got a news that yesterday in Kolkata, some people were going to shoot a film and they were beaten up. Then some people are also demanding that we will not be inflicted with corona, so we can roam about freely. So there are so many kinds of negativity being spread. Uh, Definitely, yeah. The answer to your question is yes.
Yes, I would agree with Dr. Gupta, and I think this question by Aishwarya is really important. And there are plenty of examples. There are even studies which have shown that women for a long time didn't take up technical studies like engineering, because there was a stereotype that women are naturally bad at mathematics. But I think over the years, women have fought that stereotypes. Today, we have a sizable proportion of women students in engineering colleges as well.
Right.
So anyway, it was a wonderful lecture by Dr. Saurabh Gupta from Central University, Koraput, Odisha, and we have his second lecture coming up tomorrow, which would be his concluding lecture. So I want all the learners, those present here and those not here as well, to kindly study the SLMs which have been provided by the university and come prepared, so that some very intelligent questions and some very enlightened discussions can happen in this forum. My special thanks to Dr. Gupta and the team from Odisha State Open University, which has grouped together to make this session a success. I thank my technical team members and all the learners of OSU. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
We meet tomorrow.
Right.